Hi, I'm Beck, I love books, and today I'd like to talk to you about my problem with Fairyloot, or illumicrate, but mostly Fairyloot. There are five main issues that I'm having with Fairyloot at the moment, and I've got a bit of a solution that I've made for myself to try and see if these issues are worth me continuing with my sub. But I'd like to talk you through what some of these issues are. If you don't know, Fairyloot is it started as mainly fantasy subscription book box in the UK, but they do ship internationally, and they do signed, sprayed edges, stenciled edges, special edition books. They now have a number of different fantasy subscriptions, and they have a romance only subscription, and basically you pay and you get a surprise book every month to your house. The standard fantasy subscription box comes with items as well, or you can now get book only or a combination of a couple of different ones. The first issue that I have with Fairyloot at the moment is that it has just grown so much so quickly, and that sounds like a good thing, but it really feels like, as a long-term subscriber, that Fairyloot really cannot catch up with themselves. They have far too many things going on, and they just cannot catch up with themselves. They have far too many sub-options, so they've got the young adult sub-option, they've got the romantasy sub-option, they've got the adult sub-option, they've got the quarterly epic sub-option that nobody really knows what it's going to look like. They have the romance-only sub-option, or you can do combinations of all the different ones. And then they have special sales where they do second in a series, where they do standalone books, where they do different books. And there's not a day goes by when there's not a special announcement. We're now doing pre-sale for this book. This book is open. And it doesn't feel special anymore. It doesn't feel like something exciting. It doesn't feel like something that I'm desperate to come to my door. There are so many people now who are subscribed to Fairyloot or who want Fairyloot, and it is because of the advent of TikTok and people having bookshelves that look like mine but better. Everybody wants these beautiful books to display like book trophies. That is definitely why it's happened. But also because the books used to be amazing quality, and of course you would want them. But so many people have kind of signed up to Fairyloot now, and the waiting lists are still so intense, so crazy. Some of them are 9 months, 10 months, just to be asked if you would like to be a subscriber. That series are sort of being left unfinished. There are a number of series that I've been waiting just for the announcement for the book to come out. So it used to be that if you got the first in a series from Fairyloot, and then it was time for the second in a series, and they would invite you maybe the month before the book came out if you wanted to order the series because you had the first one. And now there are books that have come out. They came out a few months ago. I've got book 1 and book 2. There's no wind of book 3. For some of them, book 1 and book 2 have been out for 2 years. Book 3's been out for a year. There's been no sign of an announcement for book 3. All of these existing customers that Fairyloot have, that have special series that they have bought particularly through Fairyloot, and are waiting so they don't duplicate purchases, so they don't acquire more books that they need. They're waiting for that third edition to complete their trilogy so they can finish the series. Those customers are just just being left. I feel like there are so many series that I'm waiting for the next installment of that I don't want to buy for myself elsewhere, that Fairyloot are just silent about. There's no word about when they're happening. Are they going to happen? Are they just going to leave the series halfway through? And I think that is just because Fairyloot has grown so much that it cannot possibly keep on top of everything that they're trying to do. Heaven forbid that you do get an announcement for a book that you want and you have to queue up for a book at Fairyloot now. illumicrate is not quite so bad for this, but Fairyloot particularly. If you have to queue up for a book in Fairyloot, you can be in a queue for 4 hours, depending on the series. If it's a popular series, you could be in a queue for 4 hours, get to the front of the queue, and then find out there's none left. The queuing system is slow. The queuing system doesn't tell you if it's sold out. You just wait and wait and wait for nothing. Sometimes you have to sign into your account. Sometimes there's a code. Sometimes you need a code and you have to sign in. Sometimes you sign in, but then it's not in your baskets. It doesn't work for the number of people that are on the queue. And so the queuing system really is not fit for purpose as well. I think because there are so many books that they're releasing as well, so many more errors are slipping through the net. There's quite a lot of books that I've had from Fairyloot recently, and I've seen lots online where some of the printing has gone wrong and lots are missing a signature, and the dust jacket is printed only on half of it. Like lots of little things like that, that I'm hearing more and more about things like that because of these mass-produced numbers of books. There is no QA. So I think the first issue that I'm having with Fairyloot is definitely to do with the growth of it, the scale of it. I have some examples of some of these little printing errors that I'll show you just a minute. I've got my wee pile of books, so I'll go and reach for them. So for example, this is one of my Serpent and the Wings of Night books. And the first copy that I got of this was terrible quality. The sprayed edge was all scraped. There were bits of the ink missing. There was a crumpled page. I reached out to them and I said, this is damaged, here's some photos. And they said, sorry, nothing we can do. And so I reached out to them again and I was like, check again, please. And then they were like, on this occasion only, we will replace your books. So these are my replacement copies. And I'm not sure how accurately you can see how scuffed the sprayed edge is and how there's literally a chip missing in one of the roses at the top here. Like, they're just really poorly printed. And that is becoming a habit, sadly, because of the scale of the production of Fairyloot books. The second issue that I'm kind of having with Fairyloot at the moment is the content. So I get the triple box, which means I get the young adult, the romantasy, and the adult books from Fairyloot. And honestly, most months, I can't tell which one is which. Everybody said, like, within the first couple of months of romantasy, they would find their groove and you'd be able to tell which one was which and the romantasy would change. But I honestly, most times, can't tell at all, especially between the adult and the romantasy. Young adults, sometimes the main character is a bit younger, but we're having adult books that really are new adult books. We're having young adult books that really are new adult books. And we're having romantasy books that are really new adult books, but with a little bit more on-page physical romance. All of the protagonists for most of the books are 18, 19. There's no difference between these books. I really, really wish that there was a distinct difference between all three, because sometimes the best book of the month is in the romantasy. Not rarely. Sometimes it's in the adult, sometimes it's in the young adult, and you really just can't tell which one is which because they're not specific enough. So the content is just so interchangeable. And there's also really a lack of diversity in Fairyloot. Illumicrate is much, much better at their diversity. That's much more of the thing they focus on, which is great, but we'll come back to Illumicrate in a minute because they're not innocent. In Fairyloot particularly, let's just take the romantasy box for example. The romantasy box started in April, and I think the first month the writer was BIPOC. I think there was a writer of colour for the first month's book. And then every single romantasy book since then has been written by a white writer. Okay, fair enough. Maybe there's been representation in different ways of diversity. But there hasn't been in almost a year, a single romantasy book that has been queer. As far as I can remember, as far as I can see, there's not been a single Fairyloot romantasy book that has been queer. So don't call it romantasy then, because you're not showing true romance and fantasy. You are just showing heterosexual romance between mostly white characters. And I understand that probably is the majority of your subscribers, but that doesn't mean that that's not all we want to read. I would love more diversity in that, and the fact that it isn't really diverse, it's disappointing, because when the romantasy was announced, loads of us were really excited because we thought there would be an opportunity for more representation for queer writers, but that has not been the case. Another content issue that I'm having is a lot of them are the same stories again and again, because they tend to be going with the same publishers and not really going with as many indie publishers as they could. And a lot of the same publishers buy a lot of the same type of books because it's a formula that works for them. And I really would like to see more branching out from Fairyloot on that. Something that I was really disappointed in illumicrate, Fairyloot as well, but in specifically illumicrate's case, is the refusal to not put out books by problematic authors. Now, Fairyloot made a statement, I think 4 years ago, around including Harry Potter items in their boxes. And the statement they made was that there was one Harry Potter item, it was planned, no money was going to J.K. Rowling, and that would be it. They would be doing no more Harry Potter. They made a blanket statement. Why has so much changed since then? Why can publishers and, well, these book box companies, the big ones, why can they not continue to separate themselves from writers that are problematic since then? I mean, I'm talking specifically about the Fairyloot book that was released last month. No, the illumicrate book, sorry, that was released last month. I've got it here. This one by Cassandra James. A few months before this book was organised, illumicrate released a statement and was like, well, we know that people have political differences, and, you know, if we didn't publish people from different political backgrounds, then it wouldn't be very diverse. But the things that this writer has done are greater than having political differences. It's to do with their opinions about women, their pro-choice opinions. It's very much more than just like, well, they voted for this party. And for a company that is supposed to really champion diversity and does champion diversity in lots of different ways, it was so disappointing to see that. And the reason it was so disappointing is because this is a subscription box. We are not supposed to know the book that we are getting. We are not supposed to know ahead of time if we want to skip it. That's what the clues are for. Like, is this book your vibe? And I think that you can't really force an author that has problematic political views in some way, shape or form onto everybody in a subscription. I think it's fundamentally unfair. So I'm having a bit of an issue with the content of some of the books. Now, I have spoken a little bit about the design and the presentation of these books, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because that also has been lacking. I have to say, this month, last month, Fairyloot have pulled their socks up again. They have knocked the design out of the park. But for a while, Fairyloot were using lower quality paper. It seemed like it was perhaps recycled, which is great, but it gave the books a funny finish. As I said, they were damaged books. People had no compensation offered for their damaged books. There was a big dip towards the end of 2024 in Fairyloot's quality, I think, in quite a lot of their book forms. And I feel like the romantasy books are just made more cheaply. They just don't have the investment and the budget it looks like. And it's a shame because it costs the same in terms of me buying the book. So it should be just as good. Because these books are being published in much bigger numbers, more of them are doing digital signings, which kind of makes them seem a bit less special. There's less customizations, because Fairyloot used to be the top of the game for customizations. They have customly designed covers all of the time. I love that sort of thing. But it seems like it's less and less now. It used to be the most impressive, and it's kind of lost that appeal. I think illumicrate is still absolutely knocking it out of the park. In the past year or so, every single month, illumicrate's book has been more beautiful than Fairyloot's, in my opinion. I have a Fairyloot book here that I thought was just so disappointing that I thought I would show you. Hold on, it's a wee bit further down. Hold on. This one. So this was the redesigned cover for the Starlight Air, which was the romantasy book last month or the month before. And it looks like it's been like a really bad digital mock-up. Like, this is beautiful. The gold on it is beautiful. But the logo of the title, it's flat. It isn't printed very nicely. The dust cover isn't really folded very well. It's quite loose. It seems, I don't know. Inside, it is beautiful inside. It really is. But I feel like the dust jacket, it really lets the whole book down. And it's just little bits like that. And I don't think it's been the design of it. I think the design of it is really good. I think it's the execution. It's this funny sort of cheap dust jacket paper. This looks like it's been a 3D font that was maybe meant to be 3D on the cover and it hasn't worked out. I understand a lot of this is personal preference, but I think that is a common theme in Fairyloot, based on people that I've been talking to, is that actually they're preferring the Waterstones versions. They're preferring the independent bookshop versions, which never used to be the case. I think that this is so important because these books are not cheap. And kind of price and value actually is the fourth problem that I'm having with Fairyloot just now. It used to be that you invested in these books. You bought these books, they were signed, they were special editions. You knew that no matter what, if you were to sell these books, you would get your money back. You would get your baseline money back. They were an investment. But the thing is, they aren't anymore. And this is where I think I'm having the most trouble. International shipping, firstly, is insane for Fairyloot, I believe. I think that people cannot really justify getting book boxes over there. And I know that a lot of people, when I asked what their issues with Fairyloot were, it was the shipping. For me, I totally get that because I've looked into other book boxes internationally and the shipping is crazy this way too. So I don't think that's a company-specific thing, but it is still worth mentioning. The thing that is really bothering me, and I have heard a few people talking about it, but not really openly, is Fairyloot used to be that if you had the book box, you were on the subscription and you got the first in the series, and then they released the second or the third in the series, or if you managed to get the books, yes, it was harder to get the books, but you had to be in it to win it. You had these books, there were only a limited number done, and so you had this one of these, however many thousand copies of these books, and you could then sell them and they would be valuable. But now, Fairyloot are doing so many reprints of books that used to be worth like money, or reprints of books that you used to have and know that not everybody has these books. And that really just decreases the value of the existing owners of these books. So a book that I have that I was really annoyed when they reprinted was when they reprinted the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I love this book and I was so excited to get this book. I've read the book, I have the series, I've queued up every time to get the second and third in the series. And I know that lots of other people did, but because the book was really popular, they reprinted it. Now, I understand about demand, and I am really sorry if you were really excited to get a book in the reprint. For you, the reader, I am happy. But for everybody who already had these books, it is no longer an investment for us. And that was the real reason that I justified buying these books to myself. It was an investment, and I knew that no matter what, I would be able to sell them. On the sort of flip side of that, if there are more of these books, it stops insane reselling. So one of the big issues is that people will have a book of the month and they'll instantly, the day the book arrives at their house, they'll have it listed on Vinted, £200 for this book. And people are paying these prices. People are paying these prices for these books because they desperately want them, because they're not on the waiting list, because they've, for whatever reason. I think that it's a bit of a catch-22. I love that people can't overcharge for these books, but I don't particularly want the books to depreciate in value if you already have them. So I think there has to be a bit of a balance there, and at the moment there isn't. I think that the huge prices for the resellers obviously is something that really, nothing I can do to fix it, but I think that altogether we should just refuse to pay ridiculous prices for these books. In terms of price and value as well, I know a lot of people were not happy with the items, if they got the items in the box. And I guess that must apply to me too, because I changed both subscriptions to book only. And you can see I've got loads of items all over my bookshelves, loads of them that are from Fairyloot boxes and illumicrate boxes. And to begin with, they were cute. But actually, the items decreased in number. You used to sometimes get 2 books. The items increased in cheapness. And I'm not talking about the actual individual designs of them. And also in utility. So the more I subscribed to these book boxes, the more items that I got that were from fandoms that I wasn't interested in, that were cheap or unusable. And it just ended up kind of being landfill in my house. Whereas when I first started, I used to use everything that I got. I think that is not specific to these subscription boxes. I think any subscription box that you are, I guess, part of, you will accumulate similar items. But the quality of the items people felt really was not worth the money when I asked online what people thought about Fairyloot and illumicrate. Even taking all of this into consideration, the growth of the company and the scrappiness and the content, the design and the presentation not quite being there all the time, and the value of the plan, the fundamental question that I'm asking myself is, has the joy gone for me? Has the joy gone? Is it too repetitive? Do I get too much FOMO if I do skip? If I have the triple Fairyloot box and I skip, I have to skip all 3 books. Is there a way that you can just skip one of the books? Is that something that Fairyloot can bring in for me? Or if that does exist, can someone tell me where the option is, please? No matter what, I am just simply not reading them, which is the wrong reason to be getting them. Do I really want to be relying on a book box to pick me diverse, great reads when it isn't delivering? I know that having a book box is meant to be a surprise, and I love the surprise. I used to have so much excitement waiting for my book box. What are the books going to be? What's it going to be this month? But if I am having to actively look to see if the writers are problematic myself, if I'm having to actively look to see if these are books that I want to read, it is no longer a surprise. I will have to use my skips, and that defeats the purpose. It used to be that all the Fairyloot books and all the illumicrate books would be books that I had been anticipating getting anyway. I would have probably pre-ordered the book anyway, but then it would come and it would be Fairyloot, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, it's a beautiful edition of a book I already wanted. But that just isn't happening anymore. So I'm buying all these queer books, these diverse books anyway, and then also getting all these Fairyloot books. And it's just too much. It used to sort of condense it a bit for me, but it isn't anymore. And I don't feel like the sort of the point of the book boxes, I feel like the spark and the joy of the book boxes is not in researching what books you're going to be getting in May, because if it's a problematic author, you're going to have to skip that. And you just, like, I just want the books to turn up and for them to be great. And I didn't think that was too much to ask, but that seems to be the way that we're going. So, I have heavily criticised these book boxes here, but I do continue to subscribe to them. I do continue to pay my subscriptions. And there is a reason for that. I have got myself a little reading challenge to do with these Fairyloot books and these illumicrate books this year. So, this has to be the year, 2025 has to be the year where I decide which one of the Fairyloot books subscriptions is actually worth my money and time, or are none of them. So I have made myself this little printable tracker. I've got my journal here to show you. This little printable tracker, let me hold it up. And this is all of the Fairyloot books that I have had and read since I started getting Fairyloot. As you can see, there are not that many highlighted, because the fundamental issue with this is that I'm not reading the books, and I have to read the books to know if the books are actually worth it, really, because otherwise I'm just looking at them and telling you if they're worth it. I also have a little illumicrate one that I've made. Obviously, it's only one box from illumicrate at the moment. So here's my little illumicrate one. And that's the illumicrate books that I have read. If you're interested in these printables, I will link my download for them in the description box, and you can use them. You're welcome to use them. I have set myself a challenge. By the end of this year, I will have read all of the Fairyloot books and all of the illumicrate books that I get this year. I'm going to read all of them. I'm going to rate them out of 5, like my star rating out of 5, and then out of 5 for design. If there are any that regularly get 4 or less, if there are any of them that regularly get less than 4, 4.5, they are just not worth it. And even though the FOMO will kill me, I'm going to cancel my subscriptions. I'm also, you can see I've got a big backlist in here. I did a big unhaul in January. I unhauled over 100 books from my collection, and some of them were signed special edition books. I have decided that by the end of the year as well, I want to double the number of books that I have read from my backlist. So whatever was highlighted at the start of the year in here, by the end of the year, I'm going to have that number read doubled plus this year's. So I'm really doing a big fantasy push this year. If I've picked it up in the year, tried to read it and it's not happened, it is going. I am trying to be more brutal. Because there is no point in me spending all of this money on these Fairyloot books if I really am not satisfied with them. I could be subscribing to an independent book box instead. That's the plan anyway. So I will keep you updated on how that goes. I have to do something. I can't just accumulate books forever and not read them but yet complain about them. So this is my solution. Do you get a Fairyloot? Do you get a illumicrate? Do you subscribe to a book box? If so, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with what I said or do you completely disagree? I know some people that love the Romantasy book box and I know some people that have similar opinions to me. I would love to know what you think and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.